right, chapter 8 of It's the Manager. Really excited about this one because I think this culture chapter is really useful. This becomes basically a basic Bible. What I love is that this book has so many pieces that are like roadmaps. And so how to change a culture is chapter 8, and It's the Manager. Merging cultures is hard because tribes by nature want to maintain their identities. What I loved about this is that this is the section that most people don't realize. The leadership, they get focused on what's my job for the company. If it's to answer shareholders or to create efficiency or even create survival, that becomes their singular focus. But the minute you start to break probably around 15 people, you've created tribes. Those tribes then coalesce to protect their own survival. They want to maintain who they are. They want to maintain their value. Their identity to the leadership, they believe, is their value. And so if survival of a tribe is everything, then a leadership understanding their identity and understanding the contribution they're making to the visions and being critical. So now change of any kind becomes a threat to that. And so we need to think about a couple of different pieces. And what's interesting right now is I'm doing a lot of writing about AI rollouts or tech rollouts in the current world. And so every leader right now is wrestling with, how do I include technology or artificial intelligence in the future of my company? And what can happen is that they'll make a decision about, well, I know we've got to use it, so I'm looking for the use case, and then I'm going to go ahead, and then we've just got to figure out a best way to tell people. You minimize their fears and dive in. The problem is that the addition of artificial intelligence or tech in a lot of spaces isn't simply the addition of a network or the cloud or Zoom. It's not another technical, it's an innovation that exists with us. It exists as another entity in some way, like another agent, as a teammate. And so much like a human being being added to a team, you're adding something that exists almost like a spare team member. That changes the culture. That changes the group, especially if relator and individualization are some of the most dominant themes in the world. Relator especially, not individualization, but relator especially is in the top 5 of themes that occur out of the global sampling of Clifton Strengths. That means that relational stability for that group is something that takes a long time to build. Authenticity of trust. And so when you suddenly add into that everybody has this need to use this thing called Claude, they even get a human name, right? Like Claude. How you relate to that ends up being really important. And so people think it's about grabbing a tool and putting messaging. What I love here is they call it the 3 pieces, right? Is that actually you have to recognize that to roll out agentic artificial intelligence, which is intelligence and tools that can act on your behalf and do in place of other people, it changes the culture. Okay. 1, you have to start with the branding and repurposing. That's a really key piece. Is that how does this addition to our process, to our services, to our product, change who and what we are? You've got to understand that. And so, because everybody's joined a company that was on a journey, does the addition of this entity, for lack of a better word, forgive me, change the purpose of that? And how does the company maintain who they are with this addition? How does it fit? It can't simply be bolted on. Well, yeah, no, it makes it more efficient. It doesn't change. No, I know actually I have companies right now. One of my clients is struggling with the fact they were always a services and advisory company, but they're realizing that they still want to be advisory and services, but their real gift is they have this wealth of technical information. And so they want to now deploy that information to their clients as well. So that data, service, and advisory is the company now. A lot of people see the addition of data and what that can do to a threat to their existence. And so it's a real challenge to sell people on something they see as a threat to them. But going, well, this is our vision. This is who we are. And if our clients have a need, we would go and get that. Now we can get it for them faster. The addition of having all this data at your fingertips doesn't replace you. It should augment you. The trick is the leadership has to actually mean that. It can't simply replace bodies with it. But vision and purpose, I love it calls that out. Second is that you have to do the work that once you realize you've changed the vision, you can't. We are so scared of change that we simply incrementally change things. So the second thing in this chapter is they have to audit programs and communication. To do the diligence to go, you know what? The messaging was there. It's done now. We don't message that way anymore. That's not what we're saying anymore. To flip that into here's who we are now, that feels so stark that it freaks people out ultimately. And so they don't necessarily want to dive into that, but they really need to, because every program that's legacy that hasn't come underneath this clarity of vision, this clarity of purpose, is going to be a constant pull and a reminder to them of, hey, the culture used to be there and now it's here. So you've got to be able to go back and kind of do that and kind of step in from there. And so auditing all programs and communications being really key. But then the last one, ultimately, at the end of the day, is you have to reposition your managers as not just supervisors, but also coaches. It's not their job to go, are you held accountable? It's the ability to go, hey, I need you to perform in a new way. How do you get there? And so in some ways, your managers have to become change coaches, which means they probably need to use William Bridges' 3 models, right? Of like managing the end or the fear, managing the uncertain middle, managing the new beginning. And a coach is making sure the fundamentals are there. They're giving skills drills. They're giving feedback and accountability. Managers need to reconceive the fact that their responsibilities are changing because the technology is changing. Purpose and vision need to be clarified. Your communication and programs need to be brought into alignment with that. You need to recruit your managers to be coaches of the new tech, of the new vision, of the new purpose. Most groups don't do that, and so they feel stuck. What did you think of this chapter? Do you feel like you've seen people change, do change management well, or cultural shifts? What's cultural shifts that you're seeing? Love to have a conversation here.